So, like many people after the dawn of 2020, I too have fallen into the rabbit hole of World War III memes, attempting to restart my fitness goals, and binging the now Netflix series, You. You follows the exploits of a New York bookstore clerk named Joe Goldberg, who falls head over heels for a young, boring, basic, and blonde grad school writer named Guinevere Beck. More on her later. You is based on the novel of the same name and its follow-up Hidden Bodies, respectively both written by Caroline Kepnes. It was developed by Greg Berlanti and Sarah Gamble, and if his name sounds eerily familiar, they should sound familiar if you're familiar with CW's other shows and the myriad of superhero shows on the Arrowverse, seeing as Sarah, the showrunner, was also a writer and producer on Supernatural, and Greg Berlanti is essentially the creator of the Arrowverse in full. Hell, they even brought in Blake Neely, who's the lead composer on a lot of Berlanti's superhero projects, and he honestly does a very solid job on that show. Much can be desired about the Arrowverse's writing, but this video is mainly focused on You. No, not you, but you get it. I bring this up because this show is a lot tighter than any of those other projects that Berlanti and Gamble have worked on, despite being behind on this season of Supernatural and entirely dropping the Arrowverse beyond the crisis. I always felt that those shows' biggest struggle in storytelling was that they went on absurdly too long. You, with its 10-episode runtime seasons, is much tighter in its storytelling with its intents and what it intends to do with Joe and its characters. That said, it does run into one trope that I saw in much of Berlanti's other shows, whether under his direct hand or not, but a lot of the women, at least in season 1 of You, are fucking abysmal to watch. Beck is an uninteresting, clout-chasing nobody whose only interesting attributes lay in the fact that Elizabeth Lale has enough acting talent to carry the heavier emotional needs for the character when actually exploring her past. Which is also part of her arc to my understanding, as part of the reason her writing fails is because she does not know herself and relies on others' identities to fabricate this exciting, interesting socialite, when in reality she's just this broken up girl who never went to therapy to manage the trauma she endured as a child. Peach Salinger is a beautiful bitch in the ballroom that is Beck's life, who for some fuck odd reason is the antagonist for a fair amount of season 1, when honestly she would be way more fun if she actually teamed up with Joe to get Beck, which wouldn't be too hard as the both of them are criminal masterminds. But I couldn't get on board because she let her repressed sexuality make her this overprotective pain in the ass during her season of the show. Annika reminds me of way too many fake woke feminists I see on Instagram. Or is it Blythe? Because honestly, I couldn't care too much to tell the two of them apart. I just remember that Annika was #bodyposi, but also slightly, very overtly racist, and Blythe speaks Swedish and believes that all sexual encounters under the patriarchy are rape. That was a very weird line to cut a monologue into the show. Even Claudia is saddled with the task of being a single Latina mother in New York, and an addict, and dating an abusive piece of shit parole officer. Candace, sweet fucking shit. I'm not far enough in season 2 to comment yet, but she's a piece of work. This show really puts a lot of women in a negative light as we interpret it from Joe's perspective. The only real positive ones are the black girl magic that is Karen Minty, and Lynn, who exists to make Beck's friend group seem just diverse enough after the inclusion of problematic Peach. Not to say the guys are any better. Ron's a child-abusing asshole, Mr. Mooney is an old, stroked-out child-abusing asshole, Benji is the most annoying kind of person in New York, 40 is the most annoying kind of person in LA, Ethan's a simp, and Joe... Let's finally talk about the boy. No, not Paco, but our lead, Joe Goldberg. Now, in the social media circuit, lead actor Penn Badgley has commented on his role saying,
well, that's what the show's about. I mean, really, that's what the show's about. The show is about, like, how far... Well, I think the log line when it was on Lifetime was how far are you willing to go for love? But I was always like, no, that's not...
Ooh.
That's not what that is.
This is not love. This is not love.
To me, it's like, how far are we willing to go to forgive an evil white man? You know, that's the way, that's what I...
Bless this self-aware fella, he is so right on the money. Joe is a character who is not new to television. We've seen him on Dexter, we've seen him on Death Note. A 5'9" to 5'10", brown-eyed, brown-haired man who uses his own warped personal beliefs to excuse murder? Broad? Yes, but also vague enough to change those motivations to suit your story as needed. Light Yagami specifically was driven by his belief that the world needed a cleansing and he was the god to do it, at about 16, 17 years old. Dexter used his childhood trauma as an excuse to violently express his repressed problems by killing killers, and had one of the worst endings in television history. Game of Thrones fans be damned. And Joe Joe is just a man that believes in love. Not the character,
I wolf you.
but love as a concept. He wants to make a woman be the best version of herself. And if he has to kill her boyfriend or her best friend, hell, even her therapist to fucking do it, why would he not? It's not like he has any massively repressed issues of his own. Mind you, I haven't watched the former two shows in probably like a decade, so I'm going off memory here, so I could interpret their writing and character arcs off, but stay with me. Suffice to say, I still love all of these characters. One, because they're fictional, as in real life I would not want to be the therapist saddled with any of these guys on my love seat, and two, I think the situations that combat their goals are interesting. Dexter was a police coroner who killed people, and every season saw him going up against an opposing force of a greater threat like his brother, or his fellow officers, or the struggles of being a single father. Light was a school student gifted with the ability to take away life, and had such a superiority complex that he developed a friendship with the one guy who was also trying to take him down. Joe is just a white man in love. That's it. Nah, I'm playing. Joe is so head over heels that in trying to repress his guilt for his actions in his last relationships, he tries to drown them out by fully engulfing his mental efforts into them. Also, all at some point or another, for a time at least, managed to get away with it. Dexter literally does, as his show ends with him being a lumberjack. I told you this would have spoilers. Light defeats L, until Near pops up and Karma hits you with the bitch you thought. And hell, Joe does get back to even fall for him by the end of season 1, and she actually begins to obsess over him, till she decides not to mind her fucking business, and boom, now look at you, dead. A famous author, but now you're dead. To the point of Penn's quote, it does kind of highlight the common fact that we really do forgive a lot of the fuckery these characters do. Light, not even being that much of an exception, because yeah, he's Japanese, but he still follows some of the same tactics as using stalking, blackmail, and manipulation to get what he wants. I think the environment also plays a role in this as well. When intaking this media, I do think some people to some level or another relate to these characters. They feel emotionally unattached, or they feel too smart for the world that they're in, or they just want to give someone all the love that they can take and then some. But we also have to separate the characters from ourselves, because they're fucking crazy people with limited or select attachments to others, and that usually involves what they can receive from them if they aren't direct blood relatives. But we'll let a lot of bullshit fly because they're tall, handsome, and we relate on some level. Hell, we may even project on some level. It wouldn't be a leap of faith to say that someone in high school at peak puberty believes they know what's best for the world, and if given the power, wouldn't try to change it how they want. Or, if they had a little method to get away with taking murderers out and a couple of corrupt people off the street, that they wouldn't do it. Or, if they had a magic Hannibal box and the apparent ninja swiftness and alibi of Batman to be Captain Save-A-Ho to make their crush love them more, that they wouldn't at least give it a try. But also, we have to take the good intentions with the bad reality. And interestingly, I think, at least as a cis straight guy, they also kind of highlight a few interesting things. I know I mentioned earlier how garbage the women and a fair chunk of the men are on you, which granted we see most of the show from Joe's POV, so that makes sense. He sees people either better or worse than they are rather than more objectively. But this trend carries for the others too. Light uses women as a means to an end. Dexter initially uses Rita as some kind of time killer and alibi till he does realize he gives some semblance of a shit about her beyond basic human empathy. Joe is very much some of the more subtly internally aggressive aspects some guys may feel towards women, which are highlighted by his amazing internal monologues, which honestly make the show for me.
Hello? You? No, fuck, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna try to figure out who you are, why you look so concerned about the state of that heirloom tomato.
Oh, did I get you? Are you okay?
That's okay.
Oh, you have a way with people. They just like you. Your shirt is faded but fresh. You like to take care of things. Your shoes are clean but worn. You walk in a town where nobody walks. I won't say hello. I accidentally bump into you. You'll never even know I was here.
I love hearing Joe's thought process, and more visual media needs to bring back the magic that internal monologues are. But we also see these toxic characteristics as Joe sees them. We see Beck's friends as vapid and powerfully irritating, while she sees them as a little misguided, but in the end pretty supportive.
He a little confused, but he got the spirit.
We see Karen as his rock that keeps him stable and away from Beck, while she kinda sees him as a sweet guy with a rough past. We see Love as...
Excuse me? Do you think this peach looks like a butt?
well, a goddamn manic pixie dream girl Joe can't get away from, while she sees herself as the one getting mixed signals from a guy who needs to get over his past. One of the most unsettling things about You, I think, comes in either episode 7 or 8, as it unfortunately accurately represents the unsettling aspect of how it can feel to be a man in love when you aren't fully secure with yourself and your past. Your concept and experience of love is not a healthy relationship between two different people sharing time and space, but this insatiable addiction that comes at you from every angle at your highest high and your lowest low, and you aren't sure how to not feed into it. You think feeding the mouth will make the craving die, but it never does because the mouth is a bottomless pit. And the worst thing is, I think a lot of people, and probably a fair amount of guys, will get Joe's perspective. You just want her to see things how you see it. To see the repressed queer friend who uses her own demons as a reason to belittle you for her own self-satisfaction, because she thinks that's what love is. To see that annoying quote-unquote rival at your school as a completely separate human being and not you with some more life experiences. To see your shitty situationship with a soda startup CEO as just some shaggy, uncaring douche who wants to nut and go like the waste of breath that he is. You want to be Captain Save-A-Ho. But to quote J.Cole, don't save her. She don't want to be saved. It isn't your job to save her, Joe. She has to save herself. And yes, I know how annoying the world around us can be. The fakeness of LA and New York and the personas people put on to make it seem like, pick me, love me, I'm interesting, is true. But it doesn't justify your shitty behavior towards them either. You aren't Superman. You're a man with a super shitty history. Go see a therapist who won't fuck your significant other and sort it out. So far, I'm enjoying Season 2, and I'm hoping this show doesn't overstay its welcome like some of the other projects from Berlanti. I think the show's awareness works to its benefit, but I also think it can do more with where it takes its characters. But for me to enjoy, praise, and recommend a Lifetime show this much means it's clearly doing something right. If you haven't watched You, check it out on Netflix. Check out Death Note, it's great, and check out Dexter, and then stop at Season 5, because much like Supernatural Season 5, it kind of goes off the rails after that. Anyways, if you stuck around this long, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I'm trying to do more with my YouTube platform, and I want to know your thoughts on the show if you watch it too. Have a good one, and peace out.